Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, April 20th, day 11 of the Omer. That's Mark Messier for those who are keeping score. And it's hard to believe, but this, I believe, is the 40th day since our beloved shul has been closed down for business, so to say, though we are never closed. And now you understand perhaps what Noach and his family and the animals on the Teva felt like, being cooped up in a small space for a very, very long time. And let's pray that we have a good ending to this sooner than later. I would just like, of course, that we should continue to daven for Refuah Shalema, for a quick and speedy recovery, for Mordechai ben Elka, for our own Ivan Sobel, and for Rav Zev ben Rickel. Again, should have Refuah Shalema and Refuah Shalema to all those who need it. Not only within our community, but in the whole world in general as we go through this difficult time. Hopefully there's some good news coming out that maybe we are helping to flatten the curve, but that doesn't mean that we could take it easy. That means that we still have to adhere to all the restrictions and regulations because what we're doing is working. So we can't just figure, oh, hey, we're done now. We have to really keep at it, as difficult as that may be. Of course, tomorrow is Yom HaShoah. And though we had a really fantastic program that was planned here in the community, obviously that's not going to happen, not now, but we were able to join together tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, together with an international program with Israel Bonds, where we'll hear from Rabbi Lau, a few members of our own congregation as well, because of the leadership, but from Rabbi Lau, and also you'll hear some survivor testimony, and I think you'll find that to be a very meaningful program. So you'll see below in this email, and you'll also have been sent a different link where you can register for that Zoom. It's all has to be password protected, so you have to register in advance, but please do so, and there's some other options as well. I was thinking about what we should study, and I was talking to Herbie. Hi, Herbie. We miss you. I hope you're doing well. And when we're talking about learning Pirkei Avos, the custom is now that during this time of the year, we study Pirkei Avos between Pesach and Shavuos. A number of reasons are given for that. One of the reasons that's given is that they felt that since it's sort of summer hours and it's warm and maybe we have a tendency to get lazy, so therefore we would study this type of musar or these types of ethics so that we can improve our social behavior, so that we shouldn't sort of fall off and become lax in our practice in any way. That's why Pirkei Avos. So the custom is, since there are 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos, to study each week one chapter of Pirkei Avos, each Ethics of the Fathers, which have 6 chapters. Actually, originally it only had 5 chapters. The 6th chapter is added, and it may very well be that the 6th chapter was added just so we could get a 6th chapter for the 6th week, believe it or not. If one would look to find the source of Pirkei Avos, it's actually part of Mishna. So it's a Tanaitic literature. It's part of the Mishna. You'll find it in any set of Mishna. But if you're looking for a copy as well, if you have a regular siddur at home, any regular siddur, daytime, weekend siddur, Pirkei Avos is usually found after Mincha on Shabbos. So after Sabbath Mincha, and let's say in the regular Art Scroll Siddur, you'll have all of Pirkei Avos there. And the reason is because the custom was to study it on Shabbos afternoon. But we normally have a detailed shiur, but I just wanted to spend a few minutes each day perhaps going over a Mishnah or two, or just a thought, so that we can be sort of in the mindset of Pirkei Avos during this time. So again, feel free to look in. Well, I'm going to look at the second Mishnah in the first chapter, since this week we're doing the first chapter. And many of these Mishnahs are probably very well known to you, but the beauty of Pirkei Avos is that there is so much depth, and they're so rich with interpretation that you could read the same Mishnah dozens and dozens of times, perhaps hundreds of times, and come up with new explanations each time for it. So the Mishnah I'm going to share with you, and I'll also, over the course of time, I'll share with you some of my favorite interpretations and commentaries, of which I have dozens and dozens of commentaries on Pirkei Avos. And the Mishnah reads as follows: Shimon HaTzadik Haya Misherei Knesses HaGedola. Shimon the righteous, he was one of the last members of the Great Assembly, the Anshe Knesses HaGedola, during the period of history in which, let's say, we have the codification of the tefillah as we know it, of the prayers as we know it, was done by the men of the Great Assembly. I say that Mordechai from the story of Purim was a member of the Great Assembly. It's called Knesset Hagdola. That's why, and there were 120 members of Knesset Hagdola, and that's why today in Israel, the Knesset has 120 members modeled after this. Who knew, right? Well, if ever there will be a Knesset again, who knows? But that's a whole other story. Anyway, Shimon HaTzadik was from one of the last members of the Men of the Great Assembly, and he used to say, Hu haya omer, al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed, al haTorah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al gemilos chasadim. The world stands on three things: Torah, the study of Torah; avodah, the service of God; and gemilos chasadim, acts of righteousness. Now, one of the greatest, if you ever wanted to invest in a commentary on Pirkei Avos, which I think is going to pay its dividends 1,000 times over, this volume here, Ethics from Sinai by Irving Bunim. And Irving Bunim was not a rabbi, he was a layman, and he put together 3 volumes of just absolute golden interpretations of Pirkei Avos, applying it to the business world, to regular life. And I've been using this for years and years and years. And I'll share with you some of his commentary on this Mishnah, which we all may have heard, we may have seen depicted in different forms of art. You can imagine a world being held up by 3 pillars of Torah, Avot, Gemilas Chasadim. It's been used in probably every speech in any charitable dinner that's ever been held for a shul or yeshiva ever, but it's quite well known. And he says as follows. He says, maybe that this dovetails with what we say on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Uteshuva tefillah tzedakah ma'avir nesra hagazera. Penitence, charity, and prayer will avert the severity of the decree. Penitence is possible only where knowledge of Torah induces a sense of guilt. Prayer is, of course, the service of the heart. Avoda is called avoda shebelev. That's what we call tefillah. And charity is gemilas chasadim, helping out others. The importance of this teaching for the modern Jew lies in its call for totality and balance. Too often today we meet the person who trumpets forth the size of his charitable contributions, and he proclaims, so long as I give charity and exhibit a generous heart, I can safely ignore the elements of Torah and Avodah. I don't have to study Torah, I don't have to daven. We also have the person who maintains that since he goes faithfully to the synagogue every single day, he's absolved from giving charity. What Shimon HaTzadik would have us reminded is that one is required to be a total Jew by making a total commitment to Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. So he says Judaism, and I've always used this imagery in teaching, and I've always found this to be quite impactful. Judaism resembles a tripod, a structure resting on 3 legs. Remove any one of the 3 supports and the structure will collapse. If a person is learned but not observant, if he is charitable but not disposed to worship, then he cannot possibly experience a full spiritual life. Such defective religiosity is bound to be shaky and is destined to topple. The purpose of Torah in our daily life, and that's why we do this, by the way. That's why we send these videos. That's why we make sure that we have Torah every single day. That's why every day after davening, when we used to daven and together as a minyan, we would have words of Torah every day. That's why we have regular shiurim. But the purpose of Torah in our daily life is to elevate us to a higher plane. Through Torah study, we increase our knowledge, we broaden our mental horizons, we extend the frontiers of our understanding. Avoda, which we would call davening or tefillah, governs our relationship to God. It makes us constantly aware of the presence of the Almighty and our dependence upon Him. Gemilas Chasadim regulates our relationship with our fellow man. In this area, we are taught the meaning of justice, righteousness, and compassion. In this area, we learn how to love our neighbor as ourselves. I think that perhaps during this period, this really comes into focus. When we have perhaps a lot of time on our hands, we're trying to figure out, well, what should I do? And well, here's a perfect opportunity to say, well, all those things that I intended, I was going to start, I'm going to study, I'm going to learn, I'm going to try. And there's no excuse today for somebody to say that I can't do it. With the internet and with what's accessible and translations, etc., anybody can learn Torah. Avoda, it's a time that we could pray. Maybe we don't have to worry about keeping up with how fast somebody's going or what are they up to or coming on time, coming late. You're praying at your own speed. But you're praying and understanding that God really does run the world because, we had all sorts of plans. And God kind of laughed at us and said, well, yeah, I got another feeling about that. It's just not going to happen as you thought. And Gemilas Chasadim we've seen so much of helping those that are in need, of helping those who need our assistance. And perhaps the greatest help that we can do is by staying away from one another, believe it or not. So as we begin our journey through Pirkei Avos for the next couple of weeks, please remember this first Mishna, Perek Aleph, Mishna Bet. The world stands on three things: Torah, Avoda, Gemilas Chasadim. Let us hope that during this time we all have a keen appreciation and understanding of these three pillars upon which the world stands. And let's hope that our world will continue to stand and will stand stronger and better than ever before. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a meaningful Yom HaShoah. May the memory of all those that we lost during the Shoah be for a blessing and a benefit for us. And Tehei Nishmasam Tzur Mitzurim HaChayim. Thank you.